Today we talk about being a linchpin. This show is for everyone working at the coalface. Digital, business, marketing, social. This is At the Coalface with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello everybody, I'm Jason Greenwood. Welcome to episode 21 of At the Coalface. Today, this video is going to be a video book review of a book written by Seth Godin called Linchpin. And I actually listened to this book as an audiobook for free on YouTube. Seth Godin often releases his books, when it's a couple of years down the track, and he releases them as free audiobooks. So he's a pretty generous character. If you know anything about Seth Godin, he gives away a lot of his content for free. He does a lot of keynote speeches, and if you don't know who Seth Godin is, then you probably haven't been around marketing that long. You haven't maybe been around business, or maybe you just haven't, I guess, heard any of the great speakers speak, so to speak, because Seth Godin is definitely one of the, probably one of the most well-respected marketers on the face of the planet. And he's very generous with what he does, and that's one of the things that makes him stand out amongst other marketers, which sort of sell all their content and sort of put pay gates in the way, etc. So he's a very generous sort of a character, and I guess that's a perfect segue into a little bit of what this book is about. I've listened to a couple of Seth Godin books. I find myself more and more nowadays listening to books as opposed to reading them. I love reading, I really do, and I've been a big avid reader my whole life, and I've read many books, probably hundreds of books by now in my life, and I tend to have several books on the go at a time. But I find that now, as my life gets busier and a little bit more hectic, and I'm trying to produce more content around my work and my life, etc., and trying to add value to other people's lives, that I find I just don't have as much time for reading as I used to. And so I find audiobooks to be a little bit more digestible. I can listen to them on the run, I can listen to them in the train on the way to work, I can listen to them in my car, I can listen to them in scenarios and circumstances that make actual physical reading of a book, even a digital book, an ebook, really challenging to get through. And I seem to digest content a little bit better when I'm listening to it and or watching it as well. Not quite sure why that is. I guess I'm just a very verbal type of a person, and so when I hear it and I can listen to it on kind of repeat as well, I can soak some of those concepts in ways that when I'm reading, it's a different experience. So anyways, I won't belabor the point, but I did listen to this book, and I'd encourage you, if you're trying to consume content, especially books, and you're trying to consume it, a lot of them quickly, and you're trying to squeeze them into other areas of your life and to fit them around other things that you're doing, I would highly suggest audiobooks as an option for you. I do it, I literally have a Bluetooth headset on when I'm mowing my lawn. We have a huge yard, and I have a ride-on lawnmower to get through it all because it's massive. And so I've literally got Bluetooth earmuffs that my iPhone's sitting in my pocket, and it streams to my headphones, and I can listen. So I've got basically an hour and a half of listening time there every single weekend when I mow the lawn. So trying to be creative and trying to life hack, I guess, ways in which you can get some of this content in that will benefit you. You got to just basically work it out and try to figure out ways to both time to produce content and ways to produce content at scale, and also to absorb the content that you find beneficial to you at scale. And I guess that's partly what I wanted to talk about today, as I experienced with this book, because it's over 8 hours. And so for me to get through this audiobook, I really needed to set aside blocks of time of half an hour to an hour here and there to get through it. And I was able to do that as an audiobook much better than and easier than I would have as in written form. So it's about 260 pages. I think it was written in about 2012. So it's about 4 years old now. But this book is definitely, if you let it be, it's one of those life-changing books. Now, as I said, I've read a few Seth Godin books now, or listened to them, and he's got a really unique way of observing the world around him and putting it into a perspective that it's easy to apply in your day-to-day life. And Linchpin's no exception. And I guess if there was a couple of key takeaways from Linchpin that I found really inspiring in its own unique way, it's how to treat your craft, whatever it may be, as your art form, and it's your gift to the world. It's your gift to your employer, it's your gift to your business if you own a business, it's your gift to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your colleagues, whatever your craft is and whatever it is you're applying your time and energy to, looking at that as your art form. So treating your activities and what you do and elevating it and giving it the importance that is due to it, and the attention and the love that it deserves, and that by its very nature transcending your standard work life, your standard business life, and making you indispensable, particularly in relation to being an employee. So he speaks a lot about being a linchpin in your place of employment, and that definitely is a lot of the book. And when you think about, and he gives you really tangible examples of taking and rising, raising yourself up and making some of your activities and your behaviors into that art form that transcends the mundane. And just to give you an example, when you think about those flight attendants that have to go through the safety briefings, 2-3 times a day, every single day, 4, 5, 6 days a week, and you can tell the ones that aren't into it and they're just going through the motions and they're reading off the cue cards, and then the ones that make it onto YouTube because they turn it into a song, or they turn it into a rap, or they turn it into a comedy, or they turn it into something that's really engaging with all of the passengers on the plane. And that really is a prime example of someone taking their role, their job, the mundane, and elevating it to an art form that makes you stand out. And it's making yourself indispensable. And as you can imagine, these types of people, particularly if they're employees, instantly become indispensable because they are setting themselves apart in terms of their behavior, in terms of their engagement with their role, with their job, with it, whatever it is that they're doing. And I see that, in my own life, and he talks about specifically letting that overflow into your relationships with your coworkers, with your colleagues, and with your family members as well. And you can elevate any area of your life to that level of an art form. And so I thought that was a really distinct or big distinction that he makes, as opposed to storytelling is great and all these concepts that he consistently speaks to in almost all of his books, but definitely elevating work or any activity really to an art form that sets you apart and is different to how everybody else does it, and adding a unique value to it is it's a powerful concept. And he uses examples, as I said, example after example after example, that really makes it tangible for you, and it spurs your own creative mind of how you can be intangible, that you can have an intangible element that makes you indispensable yourself. The other concept that he speaks to in the book is shipping. And so he says, he's speaking primarily about projects that you may have at work. It may be a specific task that you're tasked to do, getting a piece of software out the door, getting a book written, getting a video done, getting whatever it is that you need to do in your life, getting that done and getting it out the door without the expectation that it's going to be perfect. And he really makes it very clear that you're never going to reach perfection anyway. And he's not saying do a slapdash job of it, but when you've committed to delivering something by a specific date, he makes sure to point out the benefit of hitting those dates and the negatives of not hitting those dates, of not being trustworthy, of not being able to be counted upon, and the fact that shipping in an iterative way and being able to improve upon that, getting it out there in the marketplace, whatever it may be, your own content for your job, whatever it is you're trying to produce, getting it out there in the marketplace and letting the marketplace decide how you iterate and improve that is a really, really important aspect of being a professional, of being an artist, because he really makes a deep connection between your art and getting it out there and getting it shipped, in the sense that without shipping it, your art isn't exposed to anyone. It never sees an audience. So, you can have a painter that's the most genius painter in the entire world, Picasso, whatever, and or a great musician, but if they only do that at home, if they only make music at home in the quiet of their surroundings, and they never expose that to the world, is it art? It's questionable whether it's art until it finds an audience, until it changes someone's life. Is it really art? And that's really the question he's asking ultimately over the top of this book. And it's the same with physical art. Somebody could paint a great painting, but until someone sees it and until it changes them, until it touches them inside, until it makes a connection, an emotional connection, an emotional change in someone, is it art? And that's, like I said, really the question that he's asking overall throughout this book is how can you take your craft, how can you elevate it to an art form that makes you indispensable in the world? Full stop. What is it about that, about your craft, about your art, that is distinct from everybody else and is irreplaceable? And it's going to allow you to make more money. It's going to allow you to make a bigger impact in people's lives, a positive impact. It's going to allow you to have a broader audience. Those people that do those safety briefings on planes that make themselves on YouTube, sure, they have an audience in that aircraft every day, but now they've got an audience of millions on YouTube, of an example of somebody who's taken a very mundane task and elevated it almost to an art form. And those are the people, if you think about all of the content you like to absorb and that you like to partake in, I think if you look across the history of your life, the content that interests you, or the engagements, the discussions that you have with other people that really stimulate you and hit you deep in the pit of your soul, those are ones that really have something unique about them. They have an element of an artistic element to them. So he's not telling us all to go out and be painters or to be musicians, but he's saying to treat what we do as art. And I think that's a really powerful concept. And to lean in to projects, get them out the door, get them out there in the marketplace, let your art be seen for what it is. Let it be critiqued if necessary, so that you can improve your art and you can iteratively make yourself better, make your work better, make your relationships better over time through that learning that you get and the feedback that you get back. And particularly in my role, one of the things that he talked about that I'm using literally already in my day-to-day life is, in a project, is to get feedback from all the stakeholders really early on. So literally from the first couple of days, let people voice, everybody who's a stakeholder in a project, let them air what they think needs to happen in this project. Let them get their wish list out there on the table. So that way, very early on, you're capturing kind of all the wants and the needs of all the people that are going to be influencing the success or the failure of projects that you work on. And get that feedback early so that they have no excuse, so that they can't, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months into the project, they can't say, well, you didn't know, you didn't listen to me, now we're halfway through this project and now we need to make massive changes to it. And I've seen the benefits of that already in my daily life. I've got a big project we're working on currently, and getting all of the key stakeholders in the room. We're in our second revision of this project and the scope behind it. And I'm loving my work as a result of listening to this book. I'm loving aspects of my work even more than I already did, because I really truly, it's a mental and emotional shift to think of what you're doing as art. It's not just a day-to-day task, but think of it as your individual work of art. No matter how big or small or insignificant as it may seem, when you treat it like art and you give it that love and you want to have that positive impact on the backside of it for your customers, for your colleagues, for your coworkers, when you take yourself out of the picture and you focus on the outcome and the impact that you're going to have with what you're doing, it really changes your perspective. So hopefully that review has been helpful. There's many other concepts. He talks about the lizard brain, and he talks about the resistance, and he talks about many of these, I guess, catchphrases that we hear in society today and kind of the self-help space. But this book transcends that in a lot of ways. It's not just a self-help book. It's very practical in its application of how you can become indispensable in the world today. So hopefully you found that interesting. I wanted to announce the Ask Gary V book contest winners. Unfortunately, I didn't get the kind of feedback that I was looking for, and no one really qualified. I didn't get the sort of conversation, the comments, the feedback that I was looking for. So I'll probably run this again very soon in the near future. I'll do it again and hopefully get a little bit more feedback. But definitely look forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm going to keep doing what I do no matter what, because I hope that it has value for you, and I'll keep putting it out there and keep sharing what I learn along the way, because it helps me as much as it helps you to have to articulate this and put it into words. So thanks very much, and we'll talk soon.